Hello and welcome to Audionaut Deep Space Network, episode 138. This is the Independent Musician's Guide to Production and Promotion. And this week, we're talking what sounds good for Spotify, their first potential profit in however many years. But as we kind of peel back the onion, whatever we want to say, layers, I guess, it's not as rosy of a picture as you might think. There's a lot to it. So we'll talk all about that. And then we're going to take a look at this broken Mini from Full Bucket. Now, this is pretty interesting. We'll get more in depth about that as we go, but it's intentionally broken. That's the point of it. So is there a place for these kind of wonky, interesting synthesizers, or as Curtis is going to call it, I don't mean to steal your thunder, my friend, but meme synths?
A meme synth. Yeah, definitely a meme synth.
We'll talk about that. And I'm curious if anybody has checked this out. Let us know in the comments. There's a couple other bits of gear that have been announced recently or come out. We'll be talking about those next week. A lot has happened in the last week for us. We've been pretty busy. My son is sick. My wife has to take him to the doctor right now. So it's just been crazy. So this is the episode today. My name is Sunwarper, and with me today is my Audionautic co-pilot and lover of cats, Curtis. What's going on?
Going well, dude. It's feeling better after seeing your face.
We couldn't have our Monday meet, right?
No, we couldn't. So I'm sure that we'll go on a side quest or two. Living the dream, as they say. It's getting colder, and therefore it's time to stay inside, not go out, and just play around with synthesizers. Similar to summer, really, but colder.
But less sun, less vitamin D, less potential for vitamin D.
Exactly. But who needs vitamin D when you've got, like, for example, the SP4?
Vitamin Moog.
Vitamin SP. But no, it's been good. It's been good. I've been dotting around. I'm trying to reimagine what it is when it comes to producing music and what it means, like these little pockets of time, right? We always complain about time, and I'm in that
micro
space
moments, man.
Micro moments, exactly. So I'm in this space of defining what my micro moments are and creating space around that. The SP has kind of unlocked that notion. It's the first time I've got a piece of hardware which is purely portable, right? And so a little box at my fingertips. So I've been kind of carrying it around everywhere, probably not using it as much as I hoped, but slowly but surely picking things up, that kind of thing. So,
yeah, you're going through a weird process though, where you're not purposefully not watching YouTube videos. I was the opposite, where before I even got it, I watched like every video I could, so I'd understand kind of like the way it would work. So I was trying to build a muscle memory without actually using the muscles. I did that for the Digitac too, and that to me works best. But I understand we all have our different ways of doing it. So no hate. I'm just saying it's interesting. You've made this conscious decision to be like, I'm not going to watch anything. I want to kind of discover it on my own, which is by like inherently going to be a slower process.
It is. And I think it's just the way it has to be in that regard. I think I do have, like, I've got a ton of your videos sitting there and waiting and downloading and stuff like that. And I do have the functionality videos, like how to do this, how to do that, how to loop, how to pitch, that kind of thing. I feel like, knowing me, I feel like I would go down that route of emulation before I kind of take it as anything else. And so I'm trying not to do that. I don't have any lo-fi samples. I don't have any boom bap samples or anything like that. Got a load of glitch, a load of techno, and a ton of nature sounds, and it's kind of going from there, really. For now, we'll see how we feel. You ever so kindly sent me your cheat sheet, but I will buy it. Just it's sitting in my thing.
It's all good, man.
And well, that's the first kind of external kind of proper thing that I'm taking away. So we'll see what happens. I could come back next week and say I've just watched all of your videos, for example. You never know.
No, man, I think it's commendable. I do the way I do it because, one, I want to learn quickly because I'm impatient with it and want to use it. But two, I usually have to do a live stream or present or something when I get a new piece of gear. So I kind of have to learn it quickly. Like with the P6, I watched what I could, but that one, not much was out. So I kind of had to figure it out on my own. So it was it just takes a little bit longer. And then there was a stress because I already had set dates for like when I was going to do live streams with it, this and that. But I think if you can take your time and really learn it on your own, there's merit to it. But I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the emulation, because that's how we learn music, right? Like we learn the music and then we take what we learn and incorporate it into our own creations and stuff like that. So I don't think there's any wrong way to do it. I'm not criticizing the way you're doing it. I think it's really cool. But I would not be like, oh, you caved in if you started watching videos or doing this and that. It's all just part of the process.
It is, yeah. So yeah, as totally part of the process. Where are you at on yours, brother? What's been going on with you?
Let's see. Trying to find a little time to play, but since I've been getting a lot of lessons lately, I've actually had to start brushing up on music notation again and sight reading and like all that type of stuff, which I absolutely hate. I hate it, but I want to be able to kind of teach the holistic thing. It's not just the song, right? It's not just the chords and the theory. It's also the like reading, reading music and stuff like that. And then, yeah, I think what I'm going to do, because I don't know when that album's going to be done. So I'm just kind of like just using moments to write songs and stuff like that, but not worry about anything like, oh, I'm not going to worry about arrangement or this and that. So what I think I'm going to do is the songs I made like probably 50 songs, on YouTube this year, because one song a week basically. So I'm going to find my top 3 or 4, one of them being the stream I did last week, flipping your sample, which came out really cool. And then in December, do live streams finishing those, like throwing them into the DAW, stem splitting if I need to, or different workflows for finishing. Because I see with DAWless music, like a lot of times, here's how you make the jam and stuff, but it's like you can do a lot to finesse it to kind of make it a releasable track. But it's not talked about as much as I'd like, or I'd like to at least show the way I do it, because there's a lot of cool things you can do when you put that in the DAW after.
I think that's fair. I think it's watching that growth and watching something become or transform from a jam or a sketch or an idea, and then how that idea becomes in. And everyone's got their own different process, right? You've got your way of doing these things, and you use a combination of those. Like you've got Logic, you've got Reason, you kind of bounce between the two, and and it's you've gone so far DAW-less, like since you moved into to where you are now.
Yeah, the shed.
Since you moved into the shed,
which is freezing, by the way. That's why I think I'm more bundled than you, and it's probably technically warmer here.
That's fair. I think it makes sense, and that you've gone so far that way. I am really curious to see where that comes in the other way. Like, as much as you've gone DAW-less, I've gone DAW-full.
Dofful. Yeah, that's such a terrible name.
It has
this negative connotation. It's dofful.
Right. But anyway,
that's the thing. See, like I think it's a bit of a misnomer or whatever, that I didn't go fully DAW-less. Like I still finished things in the DAW, and that's what I want to show, because it's like I don't like the idea of DAW-less versus DAWful. Let's say, it's like use both. The hybrid setup's the way to go, and even if nothing else, send the DAW-less 2-track into the DAW, stem split it, and you can do further mixing. I had to do that for Golden Hour. Everything was done on the SP in one take, and I was like, oh crap, the hi-hats are way too loud. So I had to split the stems, figure out ways to kind of, mix it. And then you can add additional things, since you can set the BPM to the same BPM. You can do a lot of transition effects, adding MIDI sounds and stuff. And then if you use something like, I don't know if I can lift it up, but something like, there it is, Overbridge with the Digitact, where you get multiple channels, that's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that is okay, like you say, that is like a misnomer almost, right?
Yeah.
And of where you're at. But I think that's ever more part of the process. Like we see a lot of your live jams, we see a lot of kind of where you're at as a writer, so to speak, and you're very vocal about these sketches that you're writing, where you're coming back to traditional forms of songwriting and things like that. I'm curious. I mean, we haven't worked together, collab together properly. I mean, unless this is the continuous biggest collab that we'll ever do.
Well, we have the things in the fire that we've never finished, and we keep being like, oh yeah, we got to get back to that, and then we just haven't. We got the guitar stuff we made in Switzerland together. I was gonna say Switzerland. And those are just sitting there, and then there's a couple other things too that we got. That drum and bass song.
There's
like
few.
post metal stoner doom.
Yeah. So we have got that, but it's like because this takes us so long
Yeah.
and it takes up so much of our time, we haven't, I mean, since Periapsis and Mothership and what was the other ones?
Trans-Pacific and what is
Trans-Pacific and
what was the
Interstellar Daydream.
that's it. Yeah.
Interstellar
I had
Daydream.
the inter.
Yeah. Since then, we haven't really done much together because we know this is our collab. Our collab is meeting this once a week and doing this and running Audionaut. So, our discussions have shifted from the production side of things and, have you tried this bass, or have you tried doing this or trying doing that, to have you found anything to talk about this week?
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah. Well, we will talk about the broken Mini today, so I can ask you, have you found anything with the space?
Well, yeah, we'll talk about
This
that.
meme synth, as you say.
We have to talk about, and literally, okay, so we did start late, as we do, and we do use Salvador Dali clocks, as Smiling Arrow says. Hi, Smiling Arrow, it's lovely to see you here. There's a good reason for that, and there is always a good reason, but on this particular reason is literally about 2 minutes before the show, I downloaded Black Hole thanks to Sunwarper, which is a free loopback plugin, which I've never heard about until
equivalent of loopback or competitor.
So we will have live sound. Usually Sunwarper can deal with that because he has loopback. I don't have that, but I'm hoping today everything's in place. So that's why we're a little bit late. So you can hear what this is up to. So hello to everybody. I've seen Abby in the chat. I've seen Smiling Arrows. Who else?
Yeah, let me just add them. Sorry, I was putting something in the Discord. Our patron Abby is in the chat. What's going on? And Sleeping State says, you guys need to play with a new filter table. It's ridiculous. Yeah, you were posting that in the Discord. I haven't had a chance to check it out or watch it. Is that for wavetables? I saw something like it was a wavetable thing or something. I'd love if you would expand on that, Sleeping State. But with that, shall we get into the Spotify news?
Yeah, go on then. Do you want the article first, or do you want the Reddit post? You said they want the
let's
news
do
first,
the
right?
let's do the article first, because this kind of sets the stage for what's going on. So Spotify is having a good year, on course to achieve its first ever full year as a profitable company, to the tune of $1.5 billion. Let me add this actually here. So yeah, nice bit of money here. Very nice. But it's not, I mean, at the end result, the end result is the end result, let's say. But to get there, they've had to do a lot of controversial things. The top one, I think, being this year, they changed the way royalties work. And it looks like, I was trying to find the actual number, but from what I'm seeing, over 60%, if not more, of tracks on the platform were just completely demonetized on Spotify, in the way that they set a royalty threshold where you have to meet a threshold of 1,000 streams per year before you get paid anything. And if those 1,000 streams aren't in the first month, it only happens after you hit the 1,000. So if you have, let's say, 999 in the first month, and then you get one more, that one more will then start the payments. You don't get any for that first 1,000, which is just ridiculous. So that was a huge controversy. You can check out our previous coverage of it on the ADSN playlist on YouTube, or just search it on our YouTube channel. But I mean, there was a lot of controversy there. They did a ton. They also did something pretty controversial where they changed the way royalty payouts happen by adding audiobooks. And so because they added audiobooks, they were able to pay less royalties per. And so they made this big thing that because they were changing the royalty threshold to that new 1,000 streams in a year, they were saying, oh, this allows us to make a bigger pool of money to pay those who are, I forget their word, it's not emerging artists, but they use some, nice rephrasing of who they deem worthy of giving money to. But while they did that and were very upfront and saying that in the forefront, like, hey, we're doing this to give more money, on the back end, they were actually doing this audiobook deal so they could pay less royalties to all of those people. So they did this kind of underhanded thing where they're saying one thing and then they did this other thing. On top of that, so all of this is what they were doing. This all affects the artists who are putting their music on there and giving people a reason to go to Spotify, which is just so ridiculous to me. I mean, that's just so insulting. But on top of that, they also did multiple layoffs throughout the year. And I think in the previous year, 1,500 jobs were cut in December of 2023, reducing the headcount by 17%. In July 2024, they laid off 40 employees from the ad sales team. And I believe in September, they also laid off some from, it's possible they laid off some from the podcast business, but I'm not completely sure about that. So yeah, they've just done a lot of drastic cuts, but also ways to screw over the base that actually gives the purpose to the platform, which to me is the crazy part. And that I mean, I know the title is a bit sensational, but that to me is, I think, we're seeing the only way Spotify can turn a profit. How many years have Spotify been in business, Curtis? Do you know offhand? 15 years, 20 years?
I don't know offhand. But it's been, yeah, it must have been at least 15, 20 years at this
Okay,
point.
let's be you know, on the lower end and say 10 years, right? This is the first year they're possibly looking at full profitable year, like a full profitable year in 10 years, 15 years, however many years. And that's only been done by all of these drastic layoffs and just every way they can find to pay less royalties to the artists who make the platform exist, right? Because the only reason people are going to Spotify is because music is on there. They're trying to get people with video podcasts and audiobooks and all that. But it exists originally as a music thing. And I mean, that's still the biggest demographic as of now from everything I'm seeing. So it's crazy. So that's kind of the setup. I wanted to get your thoughts, Curtis. Where are you on this? And I am hearing a little echo on your end, Curtis. Do you have any settings? I'm checking. You've got all the settings on StreamYard set. I'm just curious if there's any weird. Oh yeah, it could be used.
No, uses okay. There's everything's muted on user's end. Noise cancellation's off. Echo cancellation
Is it off? I checked. Because when I look at you, they're on. Let me just switch them off and on again, and we'll see what happens. I'll do it. Okay, let's try that. Anyways, I apologize if you're hearing some echo. We'll try to sort that out. And one of the things with going live. But anyways, Curtis, I want to hear your take, and then I want to read. We've got some things from Reddit, and there's even comments, I think, on that music business thing, if you want to just scroll down too. But there's a lot here. I'm kind of just wanted to show the ways they've gotten to this point. They have had increases, I think, in ad revenue and things like that. But I think the biggest thing, it looks good on the front, but a lot of what they're doing is undermining and screwing over artists, which is what makes the platform exist. And so to me, this seems like a very short-sighted approach that I think is going to slowly come to bite them somewhere. So I'm curious, what's your take?
It's further evidence of the exploitation of the, how do I say this without sounding like a commie?
Just say it, man. It's all right.
the means of, it's about they're exploiting the means of production in order to line their own pockets with profit. It's unsustainable, and it will continue to be so. It will be a long time, because this is a discussion that we continuously have within our community. And many communities of the music making variety have the same conversations. Those conversations on that topic is yet to reach the average consumer, which is why in a way that we keep having these conversations. So hopefully at one point more consumers will kind of clue onto this idea. But it's just damning. It's just every time I sit there and go less and less. I want to have anything to do with Spotify. You can see that real world exploitation come through, and it's damning, and I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I really don't.
I hear you. I'm with you too. And I mean, if you watch old episodes of this, I was a huge proponent of Spotify. And I mean, over time, as they've done all of these things, it became sour, more sour progressively. And I'm at the point now where I'm thinking, do I even need to be on Spotify? And if so, or if I just want to have some form of a funnel from that put up, like if I do an EP of 5 tracks, 2 tracks, or even a single, and then just be like, hey, on the bio, put, you can check out full projects and all this. Because I mean, Spotify was, let's say, my most like lucrative platform, but now it's YouTube, and Bandcamp still brings in when I do releases and stuff. So it's like, what's the point of being on there if I'm just giving them money that they either give to themselves or to other artists, which like that's great. Other artists can get supposedly more royalties, but it's coming from the backs of other musicians. It's not a bigger pool of money. They're just taking it from these smaller artists and then giving it. You know, it's very, very weird the way they're doing this. And I have to think other artists are coming around to this thinking, especially smaller artists who at some point will become bigger artists, right? You know, even if only a small percentage of them, if you screw over these artists that are, as they say, emerging artists that they're just taking the money from, those then become bigger and they go, well, Spotify was just stealing from me. I'm not putting my stuff on Spotify. And then you have a huge demographic that wants to listen to this artist, let's say, they're going to go elsewhere because that's the only place they can find them. So it just seems to me very short-sighted. Before I hear more from you and we can read those comments, Curtis, I just want to say hi to everybody in the chat. Lars, one of our patrons, is here, says, of course I would tune it in at the exact moment you guys are talking about the bane of music known as Spotify. Yeah, well, it's good to see you. I haven't seen Lars in a couple weeks here on the live stream. I think the link, if you want to hop on later in our round robin, which will be, I think, more optimistic, you can come on in. He's probably driving, though. He's always driving. And I just see him in the green room with road rage. And I'm like, oh, man. But it's great to see you, Lars, road rage or not. Impulse 9 says, I just got here. Have you guys covered the 3 steps of I'm weary to say it, but that is a term. And I'll go that I've looked it up. I have heard that term a lot. But the actual 3 steps are very interesting. And I think it's apt for this situation. So I'll go through that in a moment. Impulse 9. Bendu is in the chat. What is going on, Bendu? Another one of our patrons. How are you, Bendu? Lars says, so basically Spotify is finally admitting that the only way they're going to ever be profitable is to just nakedly exploit artists. Pretty much that's the way it seems. In more subtle terms, I suppose. Sleeping State says consumers won't budge until the price goes up. It has been going up, though. They keep raising it. The family plan just went up. The normal plan has gone up a couple times. Yeah, and Impulse 9 goes back to those 3 steps. I'll go over that in a minute. I think you're right. I'm seeing your chat now, but I think it is like literally the textbook example, as you put. Let me just read Lars first, and then we'll go into those 3 steps. Lars says, Spotify is such a sad story because they had so much promise and they could have done so much for the independent music community, but instead they just chose the tech bro route. He is, in fact, driving right now. Hopefully he's doing text to speech. Or whatever, to speech to text, you know, whatever. Don't be texting and driving. Entire house is in chaos right now due to a renovation. All right, well, you know, we can thrive on that. Curtis says that I'm glitching. Chat, let us know if I'm glitching, if I need to cover anything in the interim while I check about that. We do have more chat coming in, but Curtis, before we get into the I'll just say it, and shitification, it's okay.
Yeah, look at that.
Is there anything that you want to add to this?
I think that there is something to be said when it comes to the reshaping or the reframing of your strategy. We're getting closer to 2025, and the question becomes, what are we going to do about this? And you know, you can throw the baby out with the bathwater. You go, screw this, I'm not going to play part of the game anymore. I'm just going to be on Bandcamp, etc., which is very valid, very real. The other side of it is I've been thinking more about this lately in similar vein to your kind of notion of just putting selected releases on Spotify. I was thinking about this in the wake of Intervoidal 3, which has done quite well relatively. Out of all 3, it's done the best out of the 3 Intervoidals. And I think the particular reason for that is Thunderloop. Now, Thunderloop is a very ambient piece, and it's done quite well. And it's you know, if it wasn't for the 1,000 stream cap on Spotify, we'd be in a lot better position. But that brought me to thinking about my OSA, which is like the Czech version of PRS, or what the publishing company. What's the one you have in America?
BMI and ASCAP.
Yeah, that's the one. So it's like that. And I'm looking at my royalties coming from my production music, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. You know, it's not bad. And I'm thinking, well, why not treat Spotify the same as that? If it is a bunch of playlists, which are meant to be played in coffee shops and backgrounds of libraries, maybe not libraries, but you know what I mean. Why not just put the tracks that you know are going to make money or be commercially viable out? Because you're going to make them at some point, right? As a producer, as a musician, you're going to play them at some point. Why not put them on Spotify, the ones that are that you know are going to playlist, and the ones who are that you know are going to do well, and then just focus everything else. You know, you don't have to necessarily just not have a presence, but just only have a presence as someone, as someone who's like, for want of a better phrase, corporatizing their work in that sense. So I've been thinking about that, and that's kind of where I'm thinking of heading next year.
Yeah, I get what you mean. I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at as well, was like, if I have an EP of 5, the 2 songs that I think best fit kind of the playlist that my music typically gravitates to, like if there's an ambient guitar track, and then if there's like a synthwave track, those would be the ones I'd put up, because it's like, why put it up there if there's no point? You know what I mean? So, but that just still doesn't sit right with me, because that I don't know. It's kind of like on the verge of like just corporatization of your own music, and you're still supporting this terrible system. And I don't know. It's like I'm almost at the point, I should be at the point, but you know, because I do have to do this to make a living, like I'm almost at the point where I'm like, is it even worth it being on there? Because what money that should be going back to me, a lot of it is just being taken. And then beyond that, what they're doing with this, oh, we're adding audiobooks. This is to open up, you know, a new demographic. But then really the reason that they're doing that is to drop royalties even further for the music payouts. I mean, it's just, it's a very shady business plan. And to me, it just feels very short-sighted. And I think over time, you're going to see a lot more jaded musicians that are considering these same things. And I know a lot of our chat just already inherently doesn't like Spotify, but to those that, and to those in the comments, or if you're watching on Spotify or on Apple podcasts, I'd be curious to hear if you do have your music on Spotify after all of this. I mean, we've been covering these Spotify changes for the last 2 or 3 years, I want to say, that have negatively impacted us as independent artists. I'd be curious if it has you considering your release strategies and schedules and that type of stuff. I mean, for the longest time, I kept hearing, oh, monthly releases is the way to go. And now that's kind of been dying down, I feel like. But I don't think anything's come in its place. So we're in a very interesting time where I think it's one of those transitionary periods, and we're seeing it live. Lars says, who? Yeah, I know Lars does not like Spotify, but we're in this very transitional period, I think. I don't know if it's completely obvious yet, but it seems to me like we're getting to this point where I think streaming, the behemoth that is streaming, is going to change to something else. Like something always takes the place, right? You know, first, like someone mentioned in the chat, sorry, I'll get back to all the chats in a minute, but Napster, right? Napster came and kind of created this whole thing where the CD and stuff like that went. And then they created MP3s you could buy with like iTunes. And then streaming came and that replaced iTunes. Something at some point will have to replace streaming, just in the way progress goes. So I don't know. I'm just wondering, we're kind of at the point where I think like this enshittification, we're seeing streaming and Spotify on the downward trend, let's say, even though I know it did turn a profit, right? You would think this is like a positive, or like showing, oh, it's a success, but it's like, how many years has it taken to get there? How many things have they had to cut, screw over artists with, and all of that type of stuff to get to 1 year of potential profit? Yeah. So with that, Curtis says I'm still a bit glitchy. Chat seems to be hearing me, but I don't know. So you can let us know. Hopefully it's just Curtis, but I do apologize. Actually, let me shut off one of the cameras that takes up a lot of the baby camera, because that takes up a lot of Wi-Fi, I find, because he's at the doctor's now. So it's all good. All right, let me get to the chat. But before that, Curtis, anything you want to add?
No, I think you've said it pretty well. It's both sides. I would just like to reiterate that maybe it is time for us to have, maybe we'll do it in January, this notion of kind of what we're planning for the year in terms of our strategies.
Well, that's one of the things, sorry, but we are bulking those videos about like what we're doing in 2025 we're gonna take a holiday break, and we're gonna have some batch. We're gonna batch record some videos, so we won't be off. We'll just be doing premieres, but we are gonna talk about that near the end of this year, like what we're doing and stuff. So, yeah, carry on. Sorry to interrupt.
No, no, till those it'd be good to see what people's strategies are and where things can go, if it's changed anything, if it's significant or not, in that regard. So yeah, nothing more to add to that. But the chat has been alive while
All right,
we've been
let's
chatting.
get to the chat. Let me first go. Where is that enshittification? Because yes, I think Impulse 9 is spot on. Step one is offer an amazing product by lighting an incredible amount of money on fire. Yeah, basically they were funded by angel investment, I think even last year or whatever. Step two, connect a ton of businesses to those consumers. And step three, turn off the spigot of a good product and finally take in the money. Yeah. Offer an amazing product, not a weak product, but I think I just skipped the week. But yeah, I mean, it does seem pretty textbook in that this was an amazing thing. I mean, I remember I was using it in 2014, first with the ad version, and then I like when Aphex Twins, what was it, Zero, whatever that album was, came out. Like I just remember driving around listening to that. It is a really cool concept, but to that point, there was something. Oh yeah, Impulse 9 actually said it. I'm also not sure it's possible to both pay artists fairly and have access to all the music ever for $20 a month, which is a very good point. And remember, I think it started a couple years, like when it came out, and even a couple years ago. Lars is in the green room. He's waving. It's not so chaotic in the background. I see that. You got a dog. That's not chaotic. Oh, downstairs. Okay. Well, we can mute you and stuff as it goes. But it's a good point. Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, the whole concept of it seems inherently flawed, but it worked to get away from piracy, right? Like that was the big concern at the time. And then now it was the convenience of, oh, I can just pay a little bit. It is supposedly supporting the artists. Let's see, what else do we have in the chat? Sleeping State says, I agree that their model is dysfunctional, but it is possible to pay fairly within their unfair model, i.e. correct splits for royalties. I agree. They could at least pay what is owed to every artist properly. I mean, that would be a nice start. And they used to at least pay every artist for every royalty, but now they've changed that. Impulse 9 says it can definitely be more fair. Yeah, for sure. Bendu says no glitches. That's good to hear. So maybe it is just on Curtis's end. I do apologize if you are getting glitches. We're not going to do that, Smiling Errors, but the chat can do that. The comments can do that if they want. Bendu says, my wife is a Spotify user. When I try to talk her out of it, I get but my playlist. Exactly. There's that, what is it? The word inertia, right? Like consumer inertia. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. It's like, even if you want to move, it's like, oh, well, I'm on the family plan. I have all these things, like all the artists I follow. I've built these playlists, this and that. And I get that completely. Like I said, I'm not above it or anything, but I think over time, as the product continually gets worse, like their podcasts, I just noticed they did an update because they're pushing thumbnails on podcasts now. They're really trying to become a YouTube. Their podcasts now, if you're not full screen on your phone, like horizontal, having the podcast take up your full phone, you get a small portion that's the video podcast. And then most of the screen is taken up by video autoplay recommendations of what to watch next. It's the most cluttered, dysfunctional, and like attention, just like distracting UI I've ever seen. Because I'm trying to watch a podcast, right? And right underneath it are like 3 videos auto playing with no volume, obviously, just like, movement and stuff. It's so bizarre. Anyways, Curtis, anything you want to add to that?
No, it's a good rant. It is definitely trying to become a social media in the same way that Instagram tried to become TikTok. It's trying to become YouTube. And
YouTube's trying to become TikTok now too. They're all trying to like chase each other. And it's like, just be unique, do something special.
Yeah. That's just it. There is no uniqueness because
it's a race to the bottom.
It's a race to the bottom, and the marketing and the market research has determined that the mass consumption of people is fairly similar, and they want to captivate a human market because really they're not fussed about anything other than your time and your attention and your searching data and what it is you're listening to and what it is you're watching. That's all they're interested
You know,
in, because on the back of that, they're selling that to other companies to then sell you ads.
yes.
And that's all it's about.
But
So
on
that's
top
all
of
they care
that,
about.
podcasts have ads that Spotify can
Yes.
control through Anchor. So they're getting a piece of that. It's
Yeah.
very minimal effort to upload. Like uploading podcasts for now is actually free. We upload our podcast through what used to be Anchor, then changed to
Mhm.
Spotify for podcasts. Now it's called Creators for Podcasts or something. They keep changing it because they keep adding all this stuff. There's a lot with the podcasts get people to not listen to music. So now they don't have to pay a royalty. The ads that are played on Spotify would then be a portion goes to Spotify. So not only now are they not paying royalties to musicians, they're actually getting a percentage of ad revenue and all that type of stuff. And it's just keeping people, just like the audiobooks, away from streaming music, which they have to pay, I would assume, the biggest amount of percentage to someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff
And
is very shady, and they spin it as these like, oh, we're giving more options of how and what you want to listen to. We're like doing this, and we're giving more artists this and that. Lars is like, nah, I see him in the background.
lifting each other up. And agreeing.
Let's, if it's okay with you, Curtis, I would like to hear from Lars if he can keep it PG-13, let's say.
We've already lost any form of that because of some of the words.
No way.
Used, so.
You get one word with PG-13, so I think we're good.
Okay.
I think we'll give Lars. We'll let Lars in. I'd like to hear him. Usually we bring patrons in at the round robin, but I think he's got something to add, good or bad, to the Spotify chat, and then we'll go into the broken mini. We'll talk some good news, and then we'll do a little round robin. But I mean, this is something I think that is very important. I don't think it's talked about enough, and I think every artist should try and bring awareness to their fans and friends and all that about this, because I mean, that's the best way to bring change, even if it seems slim. But at least if we talk about it, we all know it and we can kind of come together on it. But Lars, give me a thumbs up if you're good to come on. Yes, he is good to come on. Let me just while I'll bring you on, I'm going to check what's going on in the chat. But Lars, how are you doing?
I am good. How are you guys doing? It's good to see you.
We're all right, man. It's good to see you. What you been up to?
Well, they're tearing apart my entire basement right now.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to start working on stuff in my studio, but we had to move into my studio room because they're tearing apart our bedroom. So yeah, we're having a great time. I haven't been able to do any of the stuff I want to do, but it's fine.
You'll get there, man. You'll get there. All right. Well, what's your thinking on all this Spotify? So they made a profit this year. What seems to be a big profit, first year after however many years, but it comes on the backs of a lot of layoffs, screwing over artists, all that stuff.
This is just kind of like, it sucks for musicians and everything, but this is just kind of like endemic of everything right now. You think about just about every platform or business out there, and the only way that they're making profit is literally by like cutting jobs, cutting corners, and using unpaid labor. Like, I think, and the other thing about Spotify is like they don't take a stand on like any kind of issue at all. They are one of those companies who's literally like, what's going to make us the most money? And I've never really had when Spotify first came out, I was actually a huge fan of Spotify, like the first few years, because it's like, oh wow, I can actually get all of this music. I just pay a subscription fee, and I get it. Like, as a consumer, like, that's really, really great. But their model has just deteriorated so far now. And when they first started, they were like the only game in town, and then iTunes came out with Apple Music, their streaming subscription. Tidal came around, Amazon Music does it, and there's some others that nobody really talks about, but they're not like the only game in town anymore. So
yeah,
I feel like they're just grasping at straws at this point, trying to stay relevant, because I've noticed like their pattern is every 2 to 3 years they announce something new. A few years ago it was podcasts. They were going to lean heavily into podcasts, and they paid one particular podcaster millions and millions and millions of dollars that I'm sure he needed. I'm sure he needed
for exclusivity.
every one of those. Yes, for exclusivity.
that they backtracked on now.
Only to pay him more on the next contract and non-exclusivity. So,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think they know what they're doing anymore. I think they're literally just throwing spaghetti at a wall, and they're trying to figure out how to stay profitable. And I mean, the sad thing is, like Bendu said, is like my wife, she's a Spotify user as well. You know,
it's that inertia. I know. That's the hardest part. It's like I think it's going to be hard for people to move on because everything's. If you've been a consumer of theirs for 15 years, 10 years, it's like you have years worth of history, library, favorites, podcasts, you know, things, and just it's something you're accustomed to, but they have changed it drastically. So that's something. I just want to read something from Impulse 9 real quick. The trouble with being behind the 8 ball of billions of investments is that they have to get billions of people to subscribe. So they actually need to be everything to everyone. And yeah, that's.
But if you're
that is, I mean, that's what you're describing as well, Lars. It very
if
true.
You're everything to everyone, you're nothing though.
Exactly.
Like,
that's the thing. I mean, they tell that to YouTubers is like focus on a specific niche of people, right? Like, you know, even though it might seem small, you know, Dallas music, or if you're vlogging, you know, this type of vlog, or cooking, but doing it this type of way or whatever. And they say like never be everything to everyone because no one then grasps at it because it never connects. And it's like, well, but Spotify is not listening to that. But I think that's why you have so many investments in Spotify. And I'm sure after all these years, they're looking for a return on investment. And, you know, how are they going to do that? And someone, I think it was Sleeping State, said startups evolve from throwing money at everything into vaguely becoming business-like in order to sell. So maybe they're going to sell. Watch like Amazon buys them.
That's a hard. I can't imagine who's going to try and buy Spotify.
I mean, I don't know. It would have to probably be like YouTube, Google. Well, Google is YouTube, Google or Amazon if there were, or some like Tencent. You know, I could see Tencent buying that.
But
if they don't get banned in the U.S., but that's a different subject.
Yeah. I just mean they have a lot of money that they've been buying up, like video game companies, all that type of stuff. What did you want to say, Curtis?
Well, it's again, it's if it gets bought out, the only reasonable people is going to be another corporation, right? Who are not going to run it for anything other than to make their money back, right? So that's another company just trying to make an ROI on a company that's already just trying to make an ROI, and so it's just going to keep on eating itself in that phase. And it just the model that exists, all models such as this eat themselves. They can eat themselves slowly, or they can eat themselves quickly. If it's at a state level, it'll eat itself slowly. But if it's a corporation or a private entity, it'll eat itself quickly. This just happens to be eating itself in real time that we can see it kind of decline. But what happens in that same regard is that they just keep throwing marketing at the situation as like a bait and switch, a sleight of hand. Oh, don't think about this or anything like that. Here, have a gift card, you know, that kind of thing. And it's exhausting, I think, at this stage. More than anything, I think it's just exhausting. We know it's a bad model, and the thing is, at the same time, there is Spotify being a problem is one aspect of the situation, right? There is still very little competition and actual independent serving manner from the likes of Bandcamp, for example. Now, Bandcamp is great. It's gone through since it recently has gone through a lot of development, and it's recently had a lot of upgrades in inverted commas, but it still needs some basic things. Shareability on social media, for example. You still can't share your album on Bandcamp on Instagram as a story, for example, without making a link and stuff like that, which people aren't going to click a link, you know. You can't play your music through Bandcamp on Instagram or anything like that. And then so there's no direct competitor to the marketing side of it. And until we see that, this is just going to keep on coming until Spotify does implode. Personally, I've gone back to Bandcamp over the last year or so. I've been increasingly using it. I've been buying all the music for years and never really been listening to it. And now I'm going back through it, and it's the most authentic, most beautiful experiences, you know. But that's because I'm on Bandcamp, but they're just not bringing that consumability to the public in the same way. And at the end of the day, that's what the consumers care about. And it's a shame and it's a real shame. But they see Spotify still have the monopoly, not just on our money, but they also have the monopoly on our usability, because it's easy. Like Bendu said, his wife is all about the playlists, right? And still, it's the same thing. Even DJs now, are linking up with streaming sites so that you don't have to build your own DJ sets anymore. You can just stream off Tidal, for example, in my case, and that's just so commonplace, and it just keeps on eking into every ecosystem of the music variety, and there's no competition against it right now.
Yeah, I mean, I always bring this up when we mention Bandcamp as like a potential competitor of Spotify, as Spotify changes. And I still think it's like Pandora's box is open, where you can spend a monthly amount and have access to pretty much anything in the world music wise, or you can spend that same amount and buy just 2 albums in that same month. And I don't think you necessarily have to reach the largest demographic, right? Like there's that whole notion of 1,000 true fans, where with 1,000 true fans that are supporting you with X amount of money every year, that's all you need. And I get that. But I just think, you're inherently limiting your reach if you're just going for the crowd that uses Bandcamp, because you can see the difference in the demographic of like how many people use Bandcamp, how many albums are bought on Bandcamp versus that. But then there's also the notion of, well, 2 Bandcamp album purchases is way more to an artist than let's even say 2,000 streams on Spotify in that same month. That's probably going to be $5 if you get, or less, 2,000 streams on Spotify for a track. So yeah, I just always bring that up. I get what you're saying, Curtis. I just think like a general consumer is not going to be take kindly to being told, hey, take that $20 and now buy just 2 albums, when you could listen to every album in existence, and so I just like to bring that kind of play devil's advocate, I suppose. Chat is going crazy. I want to read some chat, and then we should probably move on. But if it brings up any conversation, that's totally cool. Where were we? We ended with, I love this, from Impulse 9. It would be so nice if they could just do a thing well, be satisfied, and pay their employees, and pay the artists, and not worry about making another 10% next quarter. What an ideal world that would be, right?
Wow. You sound like some kind of commie or something, man. Come on.
Smiling Air says Rogan was probably their single biggest win in 10 years. His viewing numbers are astronomical. He definitely created Spotify as a podcast destination. I think that was their goal. And then they brought in video podcasts, I believe, at the same time, because his podcast was like the first video one. And then they're really pushing video. Now you can actually create custom thumbnails just like you can on YouTube for every podcast. It's interesting. Sleeping State says, God, Disney better not buy Spotify. Don't even put that into existence. don't even utter those words into existence. Bentino says that kind of startup model is a very tech method. I would think Spotify is kind of a tech.
It's basically tech. Yeah,
it is. Like it is music, but it is very tech focused. Like this new model of listening to music and this and that, and on your phone and like all that stuff, and then all the tech, videos, podcasts, this and that. Also adds, it relies on essentially not having or owning a product, so to speak. Think Uber, a taxi company with no cars. That's a good point. They're a music platform with, well, let's not talk about the ghost musicians, that exist or whatever on the platform, but that they don't have the music, right? The music is artists like us who pay a distributor to be on that platform in the hopes that we make that back and then some in royalties that they're just no longer paying if you get under a certain threshold. Another interesting thing from Sleeping Star. Did you have something to say, Lars?
No, I was just thinking this, like, how long until they try to replace the musicians completely, though? Because Spotify has been very much embracing generative AI.
Yeah, the AI DJs, those AI playlists. I know. Another reason to start putting your eggs in different baskets as musicians, I would say. Let me carry on. Sleeping State says the model isn't designed to win; it's designed to grow faster than the rest and be there when the market, and still be there when the market is settled. Yeah, but I don't know if that's ever worked out really well in this type of model. Like they usually implode. I don't know. I could be wrong. But it seems like typically it's a very flawed model because it's grow, 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 but then you just can't keep growing at a certain point, right? Like you reach kind of the max demographic you're going to reach. Sleeping State also says, Sunwarper, you said YouTube was your biggest earner. Is that music videos or general content? Yeah, that's the thing. I don't do music videos because you're not going to really grow well on YouTube in terms of constant, steady growth with music videos. It's my videos of making music, which I think is actually really fun because it's not only now as a dad, I have very little time to make music, but I can set aside filming time, and that's when I can make music. And so I like that. And I like taking the community that's building around it on the journey of the process and like interacting with them in the live stream. So yeah, I don't do music videos on there. I don't think that's where like YouTube growth lies. It really is in kind of showing your process and growing a community there, memberships, whatever have you, all that type of stuff. That for me is what's really helped with YouTube. All right, gentlemen, anything else before we move on? Or Lars, did you have something you wanted to add there?
Oh no, I love YouTube. Like YouTube has helped me learn how to make music. It's helped me learn how to make art. It's helped me learn how to replace a water heater. It's helped me learn how to fix cars. Like YouTube is great. I hope YouTube doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I hope not. They've done some really weird changes lately too, but nothing they've done has changed the platform to such a degree that this has. And there is an argument to be said. I would say the threshold to begin getting paid on YouTube, unless you're doing content ID with your distributor, is a lot higher than Spotify. But there's a lot more worth to it. And also the way YouTube works and the algorithm works, videos that you've made 5 years ago can still be earning money 5 years later. Like they call it evergreen content. But it with Spotify and with music, especially the way Spotify's model has caused the music industry to change. Music is out, listened to for a week, and then it's forgotten typically because it's just, what's the next thing? Because every day there's 1 million songs added to Spotify or something, some crazy amount. We could Google it. But so it's like music. This is what I mean. We're in this transitional period. I was saying that earlier. It's like music on these streaming platforms has lost its power. Like, in my opinion, I think you still have the big fans that are going to tune in. Like I still listen to some artists every single day, right? You know, because they're like my favorite artists. But typically when it comes to discovery and finding new fans and stuff like that, you have like a week with an album and you're supposed to do all the social media prep and it goes nowhere and this and that. And it's like it's the way this model works is you move on to the next thing. That's why they were saying monthly releases and all this type of stuff. But with YouTube, what I'm getting at with YouTube, what I like is you can have a lot more luck with a video sticking around and getting plays because YouTube is looking at how long are people watching a video, how many are clicking on the video because of your what they call packaging, the title, the thumbnail, the keywords, all that stuff. And so if it still keeps getting clicked, if it still keeps getting watched, that tells the algorithm, oh, people want to watch this, let's throw it to more people, and they just keep going. So I think there's a lot more kind of ways to reach people.
I know like on like the normal YouTube videos, like those, like I'll have ones pop up in my feed that are like a year, 2 years, years old. Do you have like the same experience with doing shorts, or are those kind of more like they are like a flash in the pan kind of thing where it's like you get some views for like a week and then they're gone?
Shorts are weird. They can like the way the algorithm works, I don't think anybody's figured it out. You can watch videos saying this is how the shorts algorithm works, but it changes nonstop. And even then, what the algorithm appears to be to one short, you can do the same thing, have the same percentage viewed versus swiped away and all that, and it won't work the same. Like it just makes no sense. And I think they're constantly tweaking it. And now they've kind of screwed it with that 3-minute thing. It's kind of out there, but shorts can be weird because shorts can blast off in a week, or it can do nothing for 3 months and then all of a sudden just go boom, rapid, or it take a week before it grows. Like I've had a short that was a 10 out of 10, like worst performer of the last 10, and I changed the title, it did a little bit better, and then 3 weeks later it just blew up to like 7,000 views, and then just keeps consistently getting like 50 a day or whatever ever since then on the some Digitac video. I think it was making turning rain into hi-hats, like part of our sample challenge thing. So yeah, the way shorts work is just weird. Curtis, were you saying something, or was that
No,
Lars?
I was just
He was
agreeing with
saying
you.
something. Oh, okay. Well, if you have something, go for it. Sorry, I just wanted to finish that
No,
thought.
at all. It's interesting to see, and like you say, it's time to perhaps put eggs in different baskets in that regard. There is, if you want to play the Submit Hub and the playlisting game on Spotify, sure, go ahead, go for it. If you are one of those people who can bang out a song maybe once every 3 weeks, once a month, or something like that, sure, go for it. But there's other ways of doing it. I think Spotify have held this idea of a monopoly and being the only people for a long time. And you know,
No, you're good, man.
There's other ways of doing this in that regard. There's other ways. That's all I want to say.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Sorry, I'm just getting a text
yeah.
from my wife about what's going on with my son because he's at the doctor's. So, all right. Do we want to move over to Community Corner, Curtis, and then talk the broken mini? Maybe we'll hold off on that round robin until the next week because we've been going for a while.
Yeah, this has been going on for 55 minutes. So let's just talk about the community very briefly, and then we'll have a look at this broken mini. As seeing as Lars is here, it's a nice piece of gear. It's a pretty good time for Lars to be on because it's a pretty weird piece of gear.
Yeah, I figured.
So in the community this month, just this week, just a few PSAs. This show is and always will be for as long as we will make it. So as much as we can is brought to you by our patrons. Lars is here because he is one of our patrons, for example. And so yeah, that's the best. If you want a better advert for that, be like Lars, that kind of situation. Thank you ever so much. We really
be like Lars. Lars is cool.
Exactly, right? You know, you've got the earring now and everything.
I was gonna say it's not just the earrings. It's not just the earrings and the goatee.
It's the facial hair.
Gets out of the military and goes
everything.
for it.
Everything. It's beautiful. Just look at that beautiful face and the reason. Anyway, so we keep doing this week in, week out, and that is thanks to the guys who are our patrons. So thank you ever so much. We bring this content, we bring this stuff, and we have these discussions in the Discord before they actually come to being on the show, and that's the community, and it's beautiful. And so we thank you ever so much for your support. If you're watching this show and you've enjoyed our ramblings of Spotify for the past 55 minutes or so, because of course you have, because where else would you get your music news from, you know? And you're not a patron. Obviously, we love the fact that you tune in each week and you're involved in the conversation and stuff like that. If you want to take it one step further, head across to patreon.com/Audionautic. Pledges start at $2. Now, that's pretty good in this economic climate, and for that you get to be a part of this burgeoning community, which is very much coming into its own. And we sit and we nerd out and we talk about all this stuff, and we talk about production, we talk about music making, marketing ourselves as independent musicians, and it's a great place to be, and it supports the show. So obviously we love you coming in each week. If you wanted to go the extra step, head across to patreon.com/Audionautic. Got a couple of things in the pipes, in the pipeline, I should say. It's probably a better way of saying that. This notion of building this community. We've got more overheads as we continue to grow. StreamYard, for example, we have to pay a yearly subscription for. But also we're bringing out this notion of Project Homebrew. We've recently not been able to continue our physical sales on our label side of things owing to the changes in international shipping quotas and our distributor Kunaki. And so we're trying to bring this in-house. There's a desk over there with a space just about the size of a normal HP printer, and we want to use it to print CDs. And we're working to it. We're at what? I think
we're almost halfway. We're almost halfway there.
About 150 bucks ish. Yeah, we're about halfway. And we really want to get this off the ground. We have a community who loves to buy physicals. In this conversation, in this episode where we are talking about streaming, we have a massive community who want to buy CDs of the independent artist, and we want to do that effort. We want to do that work. We just need to get it done. And with your support, we can make that happen. So once again, without going on too much of a rant, before I hand it over to Sunwalker, patreon.com/Audionautic.
Yeah, it helps a ton. It means the world. I mean, our patrons are what keeps the lights on for the show and for all that we do. But the Discord is free for everyone. You can head to the link in the description, and you can also take part in the monthly challenges. And so this month we actually have a challenge going on which is found frequency. So the goal here is to take a found sound or a field recording and use it as a rhythmic element. Now, I, as one half of the judge, which there is no judge, as we'll get to, this is not heavy lifting here. I don't think it has to be rhythmic. Just take it and do something. I think it's almost cool if you can turn it into a melodic sound. But like we were discussing, take rain, turn it into hi-hats, awesome things. But use that as the basis for a rhythmic element, some form of element, and build a track around it. The listening party is going to be on December 11th. And this is just a way for us and our patrons, not patrons, for us and all of the users of our Discord to just get out of our comfort zones, do something in a short time span, and just come together and hang out and learn from each other. There's no real, nobody's going to be critical. We're all here just to have fun and come together and learn and just hang out. And that's the goal here. Just get out of our comfort zones. If you don't get to finish the song, we still encourage you to just put up what you've got. There's no judgment here. We're just all here to kind of just hang out, learn, and listen. And we've had some really interesting challenges with like everything everybody puts out has been incredible. Lars did a house track and he hates house music. And it was just awesome. And I still think he needs to become a house DJ or something because that was insane. And look at him. He's like, he knows he could sell out and do it. Look at that face. He knows he could do it, but he chooses not to. And the iPad's following him. Look at that that the iPad's doing. So just move around so the iPad follows you. I mean, look at that. Look at that. He knows he could sell out and get even better cameras for that following and stuff. But nevertheless, it just goes to show we have a lot of fun in these. We just get out of our comfort zones. We're all doing something. Yeah, he's giving me a soundtrack. I just kid with you, Lars, though. It was a really cool track, though. And it was cool to see, like, even a genre you don't like. Because I think that sample or that challenge was do a genre you don't normally work in. So we all did stuff that we were like was out of the ordinary. And it was cool to see like what we can do even with music we don't really listen to. And how do we process
I think we should try that one again in the future because there's plenty of genres that I don't mess with.
There you go. Yeah. I'll do a country track.
Please.
Bro country.
Please.
It's got to be bro country.
Oh, no. I was hoping more like George Strait and less like Luke Bryan. Is that one of the bro country guys? I think that's one of the bro country
I don't know.
guys.
Again, it's a genre I don't listen to. So, but Bendu's saying your house music could be an alternate identity. I still stand by Dower Hour. That's just my recommendation. That's just my recommendation. But nevertheless, it will be December 11th on our Discord. You just have to submit the track. I think it's the day before, but we don't have to compile it. But do an MP3 so it can actually be posted on there. We have two channels on the Discord. One is for just talking about the challenges, and if someone submits on the submission channel, the other channel, you comment about it in the discussion channel. When we do our listening party, it's easier for us on that submission channel to just have the submissions. But these are a lot of fun. I highly encourage you to join the Discord, take part in these. Next one, like I said, found frequencies. We are offering one field recording as if you just need one, you don't have the time to do it. It's from our one of our patron sample packs, which is one of the perks for I think the 5 and above tiers. But we're putting one up. I think Curtis already put it up in the Discord, but you can grab that if you want to start, or just take your phone, record something. What I'm planning to do is go in Koala and just record like slamming a door, tapping a rock, doing all that and turning those into the drums, like the one shots, and going from there. But yeah, I don't know, Lars, do you have any ideas? Are you taking part in this challenge? And I hope you better say yes or you're out.
I do.
Damn, man. I could just do this. I'm just kidding, man.
No, I actually got a micro cassette recorder that I got off eBay and got working again. So I think I'm just going to go out in the wilderness and try and find some sounds with it. It's got a very nice fuzzy quality to it. I love it. It's very 1983.
That's awesome. You find the best stuff. Like I go to my thrift store and it's just like terrible books from like political figures. I'm like, this is not a mini cassette recorder. Like, can we do something here? Like, come on. I don't need this.
So sorry, your thrift store sucks, man.
They all suck, man. They all suck. I swear. Even the vinyl sections are terrible. Like, yeah. But
you know what's crazy? None of the thrift stores around here have a vinyl section.
Really, all of them have vinyl, which is cool. I actually got some really good vinyl about 5 years ago. I got Willie Nelson did a Standards album. That's one of my favorites, and I found it on vinyl, and it's in pretty good quality. I actually flipped it on a video. Yeah, I did. But
Nice.
it's really cool. And I found a big collection of Benny Goodman, like a
Nice.
the swing
Benny
musician,
Goodman.
but it was a big
Okay.
not compendium, but like a big I'm blanking on the word, but like 4 different things of
Anthology?
Anthology, I think, is the best word. Yes, thank you, Lars. My mind is in other places right now. But so 4 years ago, I found some good stuff. But there's a really cool record store here in Old Town Orange that I found. Like Mort, what's his name? Is it Mort Garson? The Plantasia guy.
Oh,
I don't know if I found some of his vinyl at this place. I'm gonna flip that in an upcoming video. But
nice.
yeah, but that's not a thrift store. But they have tons of really cool old stuff. But that's not thrift. But anyways.
Right.
Smiley says, do they have an 8-track section? That's before me. I don't actually even know what an 8-track looks like.
Yes, one of the thrift stores I goes to, they have a whole bunch of 8-tracks. Can't find a player anywhere though.
But you do have do any have the floppy disks for you? Is that how you got that? No, the floppy disk was from that other thing, right? You got that floppy disk. Didn't you make you got some disc burner or something, right? That you made that album with?
Yeah, I have a USB like floppy drive that I make like floppy disk releases out.
That's it, yeah.
But the whole reason I started doing that is because one of the jobs I was at, they were like emptying their supply closet or whatever, and they just had a ton of floppy disks for no good reason. And I'm just like, what did you guys order these from? It's like, I don't know. Maybe like 10 years ago we ordered them and never used them. I was like, can I have those?
That's awesome. Sure. All right. Well, anyways,
all right.
Let's move on from there and talk this broken Mini. So Curtis, you've got this broken Mini. What's in store for us here?
Well, it's a good question, really. I'm not quite sure. Having played around with it for a little while, I'm still struggling to kind of put it down to kind of like what you need it for. So, but I mean, the best thing I've got right now is it's essentially what I would call a meme synthesizer. It's a synthesizer. It's definitely modeled on the Mini Moog, and it's definitely there. But it's as you can see at the top here, it's called the Broken Mini, and you can see we've got some missing keys here. We've got a knob which is broken here. Some of the parameters don't work properly, and if you push this button here, the whole thing freezes and you have to reload everything. Because that's what you need, right? Because that's exactly what you need.
Which button was it again? Sorry, I was on our Discord for a second.
When you play with this one, and it says not a good idea to fiddle with it while powered, and that's because it just stops and it just turns everything off, and you have to physically like reload it. So yeah, let's just check. Can you hear this?
Oh, let me unmute. I have to add your other guy. This. You need to unmute use. I think I can't
use.
Yeah, here I'll just
trippy.
Take that off till we do that. Okay, go back to the Moog and then I'll.
You hear that?
There we go.
Okay.
Cool. So as you can hear, sorry.
Let me just shut off background noise. Why does it keep tripping? Here we go. Okay, try it now.
You got that?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So as you can probably hear, if I start playing with these parameters for oscillator 1, pretty standard, right? It's there. You can hear it. It's playing around. Now, some of these things are just aesthetic. For example, you can't play this key, you can't touch this key, but you can find it on the keyboard and it will play.
Oh.
So that little bit is a little bit aesthetic, right? Okay, which is interesting. So that's there. But for example, if I was to shut off the oscillators, right, and I was to bring in the noise, right, and I was to bring the noise up, do pink noise, for example. What do you hear?
Sounds like Super Mario Brothers in this distorted chaos.
Basically, what it's doing is it's picking up radio. So the idea is that it's an ungrounded signal which is picking up an FM radio, right? And then you can do it here with the white noise, and it's the same situation. You can play things through, and it's emulating that notion of there's some poor wiring or there's some janky connection inside, which means it's tuning into local radio, which is a really interesting touch, and it's a really nice idea. Gets old pretty quick, I won't lie, but it's there and it's nice.
I'm wondering if this is something real quick. Like, I'm just thinking as I hear this would be really cool for background sound design. Like, you know how we talk a lot about putting like field recordings underneath, or like I'll take a drone that's like playing a fifth or something and have that kind of just with Supermassive just going nuts in the background for the whole track. I could hear this being like cut out sections of like take a 10-minute sample, like Willibrandt when he was on for the Traveler EP. He mentioned that he just hits a chord on the bass, freezes it, and lets it run for 10 minutes. Like goes and has a coffee, comes back, and then we'll like chop that up. I could see that being interesting, right?
Well, that's there. So this, I mean, that you're getting ahead of me in this regard.
Sorry, I know. I just as you played that white noise, I was like, ooh.
Well, this is where it's at, and it is. There are some uses for it in that regard. Where yes, it could. This is why I call it like a meme synthesizer, because there are some uses for it. I think the uses for it are fairly limited, but the question is, why would this be made in the first place, and why in this world of synthesizers should you bother with anything like this? And I've been mulling it over in that regard, and so let's have a look at that. So the oscillators, just as a little phrase, as a preamble to that, is these oscillators are purposefully detuned constantly, and they're purposefully not there. The idea that it's usually difficult in a purely analog synthesizer to get a perfectly in tune set of oscillators. So you have that notion of ear training first and foremost. We do a lot of things by sight, and we do a lot of things by the 12-tone equal temperament, especially over here in this part of the world. But this would force you to kind of move outside of that notion in that regard, which I kind of see, which is a good idea. And it could also remove that notion of trying to get a perfect sound. It's a little bit detuned, it's a little bit janky, it's a little bit kind of bent, and that could be quite nice as well. As you say, and as you've probably identified, if you use the noise oscillator in there, you can use it as some sort of kind of sound design technique, either in the background or even just as like in like a breakdown or something like that, as something that takes things away. It's a forced. This box is a forced limitation, right? It's like going to a thrift store and getting a synthesizer, and it is what it is, and you can't fix it because you don't know the first thing about soldering, so you've got what you've got, and that's a kind of a nice limitation in that regard as well. It seems to me that in this world of boutique synthesizers and making something for perfect sound, some guys come along, probably Gen Z. I don't want to make assumptions, but they live in a world of irony.
Yet here you are making assumptions.
Yeah. And it's this notion of like, it's purposefully a bit crap. And I love that. And in that regard, it's quite fun to play around with. I think if you're going to play around with it, it's good to have something behind it on the chain. I think I was playing around with Transit 2. I picked up Transit 2. I upgraded from Transit 1 when it came out. And I've been having a lot of fun playing something jangly on this, using the probability pack in Ableton, and then combining it with Baby Audio Transit 2, for example, and creating some really unique textures.
Can we hear something?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I can't hold down on the key and turn the macro for
just go to some random, tweak it to something random, and let's see what it does.
Okay, nice. Let's try this then. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
You hearing it?
Yep.
So yeah, so then you create that movement with it. That makes sense.
Why does it sound like something I'd hear in like a Wild West bar, like in Red Dead Redemption?
Right? Totally.
It's like jangly pianos or something.
But that's again, it's jangly. That's what it's there for. You know?
Yeah, no, it's cool.
And it's so there's definitely something that like if we were to use it as part of a challenge, or if you were to use it, it's like, all right, I want to make a track, a single, just using this piece of rubbish. and then you probably never touch it again. That's kind of where it comes from. That's, to me at least, where it's coming through. Oh, by the way, this mod wheel, just as a thought, this mod wheel is actually a bit crush, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
It's actually a bit crush.
I still think this would serve an interesting purpose for like chopped sound design, like almost granular, but taking segments of just freezing a sound and then taking these smaller segments of it and throwing it in a sampler, you know, like in a DAW or in a sampler, like chromatic mode, and like making some kind of almost like a granular chop out of it and creating something. Before we continue, though, let me just read a couple of chats. Impulse 9, in regards to our challenge that's going on, says there's an elevator at work that makes the most industrial sounds I've been wanting to record it forever. This is as good an excuse as any. You know, something that would be really cool, because Lars got me thinking when he was like having that cassette recorder. I wonder if everybody's game, it'd be really cool if we all shared the sample at the end, like after the challenge. If we just like all kind of pooled them in the Discord so we all could do something with it. That could be, if everybody's game, or anybody that is game, once the challenge is over, I'd encourage you to share the sample you used if you're game, because I think that'd be cool. Like, I love the sound of those little mini cassette recorders, like that grittiness it adds to it is just, you can't beat that. But like a cool sound like that, awesome, you know. And then like taking sounds from like random percussion noises and turning those into drums with EQ and stuff, like what I'm planning to do, can give you some really interesting drums. So that could be something cool. So if everybody's game, we should do that at the end. What do we also have? Smiling Air says, teenager in the 70s engineering.
I like that.
Bendu says, it is likely that if you got access to a mini Moog in real life, that it'd be a bit broken in some way. This is a more realistic simulation from a certain point of view. I like that. Certain point of view. No, I love that. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, this is kind of cool in a very weird way. Like, I don't think, you probably go out and make, you know, like a pop track just with it, but maybe, but I think there's something cool here, and maybe that's a future challenge. Make a song using just this. I don't know how that would go, but we'll see. Smilinger says it's the egg and spoon race of synthesizers. All right. Anything else you want to cover or demo of it or anything like that?
Not so much demo. I do think one thing I threw it over to one of the kids today to play around with for a little bit, and it what came back was this notion of it got you to be more comfortable outside of the world of standard chords. And again, I come back to the detuning of oscillator 2 and 3, and I come back to the fact that these are purposefully not going to be in tune, and it allows you to, in a similar vein, if you're big into sampling, this notion of, you know, key doesn't really exist. It's more about the frequency and the sounds and how they blend together. It's good ear training in that regard. So I think if you're stuck in a cycle of writer's block or beat block or whatever you want to call it, this would be a good little way just to kind of throw everything out of the window. It's something that's designed to be less than perfect, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you guys ever heard?
I just want to mention it's free. I think I forgot to say that at the start, but it's free. It's a free download.
I like free.
Download.
Yes.
Yeah, free is good. What do you think of it, Lars?
I love this thing, man. This is like, I hear all the possibilities for all the noise I could imagine. I like picking up these like free little like this one, like he said, it's like a meme plug-in. There's this one company called, I think it's pronounced Calum Audio, but they put out a free VST on every like international joke day or something. And I remember the first one I got was called Dustbin, and they basically just built an entire reverb out of like a trash can, like, you know, those big like plastic trash cans you put outside your house for the trash truck to come get. They put like microphones in that and turned that into a reverb plugin. It sounds,
that's cool.
What's the name of it, or what's the spelling of it?
You know? Huh?
What's the spelling of it, Lars? The plugin company? I'm going to put it in the chat for anybody that wants to check it.
CAELUM, I think.
CAELUM.
Yes.
Plugins, is that the name, or what was the name?
Audio, I think.
Audio.
Calum
yeah,
Audio.
Calum. I think
Oh,
that's
they're
how
from
you
my
pronounce it,
knuckles.
but
They're
I
from
don't
the
know.
UK.
English is my first language, and I'm still not good at it.
Calum or Kylum, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know.
Calum or
The A and
Kylum.
the E always threw me off, but I'm American, so we don't know
Yeah, I
what to
see
do
this.
with that.
This free plugin is trash. Dustbin. That's what their YouTube title
Yep.
is.
I love that thing. I've used that for more. I use it for percussion
Roast
quite
beef.
a lot.
Yeah.
But it works pretty well. And then that that other one, the roast beef one, that was another one of their joke plugin, International
Christmas
Joke Day plugin.
effect.
Yeah,
Bentino says I remember Dustbin. I think it was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's a fun little thing to play around. Oh, I have that one too. Of course, I have that one.
What? It's a better question of what don't you have? We just assume you have it all, dude.
Well, I mean, until you guys bullied me into it, I didn't have Supermassive.
Hey, but we didn't bully you. We just we showed you the path that you were meant to be on. Yeah, we just gently guided you the way you were meant to be.
We didn't bully you. We just showed you the way.
It's okay.
I just love how when you moved, the iPad followed. You went like this, and it was like, we gotta catch him.
Yeah, it's okay, guys. I have accepted Supermassive as my Lord and Savior now.
Good. We will always preach the word of Supermassive. All right, Curtis or Lars, actually, is there anything else regarding this synth that you want to discuss or that catches your eye?
I mean, as soon as I get my studio area back, I'm gonna download it and play with it and see what I can come up with.
There you go. Oh, is your studio that where like the BC Riches and stuff? Is that the basement?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's like it has to double as a guest room sometimes, but now we're living in that guest room until they finish our room. So, yay. Yeah. Hopefully by the end of this week.
Real quick, I just want to say thanks to Impulse 9 for joining. Go have a great lunch and record that elevator. We're all looking forward to hearing what that sounds like. But yeah, Lars, that's a bummer, but hopefully it's done soon.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah,
I'm just looking forward to taking a shower in my shower and not the kids' shower.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice. I'm sure that'll be nice. All right, Curtis, I know you brought this to the table. I think for me, I said my part. I really think this would be cool. I think I am going to grab it. Doesn't hurt being free, but to do some like background sound design, like having little things. But I also think there's something to be said about just taking small, like freeze a set, like record just like 10 minutes of you messing with it and find little segments you can chop up and throw into samplers and stretch out and do some crazy stuff with. But Curtis, you brought it to the table. Is there anything else you want to mention about this, or shall we wrap this up shortly?
Let's wrap this up. I've said all I want to say on it. I do think it's a slow burn. I think download it and have some fun. It is free. And just sit with it for 20 minutes. I think it took me a bit of time to get beyond that notion of, what the hell is this? What's the point? And actually sit down and play around, and gave it a moment. And I've come around to this evening. I've downloaded this morning, played around this morning, come back to it this evening for the show. And I'm in a different space. So I think give it time. Give it time to come back to it.
All right. Yeah. Well, so I quickly want to read this this heretic comment that was, or heretic chat that was posted here by Smiling Errors. Supermassive is overrated. Agree to disagree, friend. Look at Lars, just like breathe deep, and he's a convert. Lars,
how dare you insult this thing that I just found out I love?
It's all good, but I find it hard to believe a free plugin that's awesome, it can be overrated. But whatever opinion you hold is your own, even if it's completely objectively wrong. Ben No says light peer pressure. I suppose after saying that, I can see how it could be construed as that. No, but I get it. I mean, Smilingers may be joking that he may not be. Different plugins appeal to different people, but I do love that plugin, and I think I can speak for all of us. I can speak for all of us where we do love it. But anyways, with that, Lars, what are you up to this week besides waiting for your studio to get fixed again?
Oh man,
or finished, remodel.
Well, as soon as I actually get it fixed, like everything's good to go. Like I'm gonna sit down. I have like have a couple of things I'm supposed to do. I have to do I'm still trying to plan out a live performance video for this charity event we're doing like later this month.
Nice.
It's for it's part of like some vaporwave guys are getting together and doing like a charity thing for ALS. So I can forward information on that when I get more. But yeah, it's supposed to happen sometime in January. So I got to have my part submitted like by the end of this month.
Okay. Any ideas
Fantastic.
on how
Yeah,
you're
please
going to
put it
do
in the
the live
Discord.
performance?
Well, I have a green screen that I have not managed to utilize yet. So that's probably going to be part of it. But it's nice. It has the whole little like frame and everything. So, I can just pretend I'm in a whole nother world and not my room.
Nice.
Yeah. Aside from that, probably I'm still trying to figure out the logistics of it. But because you can do machine as VST instances inside of Reaper or any other DAW, I'll probably just set it up so that it's like they're all just in sequence and I can play them as I go.
Oh, nice.
Which, yeah, I noticed you guys did a whole episode the other day, the other week on Machine 3, and I missed it. So
I know.
I'm very.
We were like,
disappointed
oh, I
in
wonder if
myself.
Lars is going to be there to chime in, and nope.
No, unfortunately.
If you can come
We
back
came for
next
Spotify.
week, yeah, if you can come back next week, I would like to hear your opinion on it, maybe at the end of the episode. But we do have to wrap this one up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But at some point, I would like to hear where you're at. But Curtis, what are you up to this week?
Lots of engineering. We're in the beginning of concert season. So there's five concerts and then 3-4 little mini what I call guerrilla events coming up in the next couple of weeks. So mainly getting ready for that. It's fun. It's a time to break out all the cables and break out all the spiders and plug stuff in and why isn't it working, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be good fun.
What's a guerrilla event?
So guerrilla event is it's one which is kind of, it's not on the stage or it's not in a predetermined place. It's a place where people might bring some instruments or might bring their choir or something like that. And it could be in a random part of the campus or something like that. And so I've got a rack mount on wheels, a push 2, and a laptop stand all connected together, and it's on wheels, so I can just kind of wheel it around, unplug, and then just plug it in, ravel up some cables, rig some mics, and put some speakers out. Boom, small concert, tiny desk concert, and then pack it all up again at the end. It's like coming out the trees,
Oh, it's like a pop-up kind of thing.
Yeah, like a pop-up thing. Yeah, like a pop-up event, essentially.
Nice.
So yeah, I really enjoy them, and it's a lot of that. So a lot of engineering, a lot of real-world, tangible microphones and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that. So that's where we're at. What about you, brother?
I have to film a vinyl flip. I got some vinyl. I got this vinyl player sent to me, so I'm making a video where I can use it to I'm gonna make it on the SP, but I got that Mort Garson. So he did this project called Signs of the Zodiac, and I found that I think it's Taurus, whatever. I can't think. I'm so sleep deprived, but that one, Taurus, right?
Taurus.
Anyways,
Is it a plug-in?
No. It's the album, this vinyl album.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got that one and I listened to it. It's something, this would be right up Curtis's alley. It's all these really cool synth sounds, probably because I think he had, speaking of mini Moogs, one of the first mini Moogs or something, but it's all these really interesting synth sounds and then spoken word story over it. So I was like, oh, but I think I can get some really cool one shots from it. And then there was a little percussion vinyl that I found that could be interesting. And then I found some other classical music. So I'm going to see what I can get from those and we'll go from there. They have that record store has a bargain bin that's $3 vinyls. And so other than the Mort Garson one, that was not a bargain, but I found these really interesting, just bargain bin ones. Oh yeah. They had Henry Mancini's Hawaiian scores or something. And so I got that one. So we'll see if we can get something from that.
Nice.
Exploration and sampling. That sounds like a good weekend.
Yeah, so it'll be cool. But that's about it. Besides Saturday, I'll do some kind of live stream. I don't know what. I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do yet for that. But yeah,
that's great. Well, I think that draws this episode to a close. We're hitting 129 minutes, and it's been a very lively episode. Spotify always gets people talking, which is great because we keep having these discussions in-house, in communities as producers. The idea is to bring it out to the consumers and raise the awareness of this shitification.
Spot on.
So yeah. Exactly.
It's a real thing, and it's terrible. It's so terrible. I hate it. I hate it here.
So many of these companies have that going on, though. I mean, I get why that's a term that was coined. I saw who it was. I'm just blanking right now. I had Wikipedia'd it, but I mean, it really does describe all of these companies, that we were so awesome 10, 15 years ago. And then they just slowly tried to do everything for everyone and just like had all these investments. Now they need to make the money. So let's just monetize everything, screw everyone over, do all this. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I just wonder if we're going to see new things pop up because people are getting over it. Right. I don't know. We'll see. I think we've droned on about it enough, but that's just the only thing. Like my only hope is that we see competition rise up that does it better. And like stops with this.
I just want to see like more niche kind of things pop up,
Yeah, like the old days of the internet with the forums that were all dedicated small forums. Now everything is meant to be like this town square thing, like everyone's gonna be on this platform and like there's 4 or 5 platforms now that everyone gravitates to, right? But it's like gone are the days of those small little like this band's forum or this. I guess Electronauts is still there, which is like Electron forum, but. Yeah,
I guess some people would call that like an echo chamber or whatever, but at the same time, it's like I'm here to talk about experimental music. I do not give a fuck about your Ford Mustang. Like,
yeah.
Can we categorize things?
Yeah, let's do that. Crap. But yeah, I guess Reddit comes close with its subreddits, but you're still like inundated with, and then it's still a massive platform. So other. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, you said
anyways, we'll call it there. We will be back next week, 11 a.m. Pacific, which I believe is 7 p.m. UTC, but don't quote me with all these wibbly wobbly time changes and whatnot. But always great to see you. If you want to hear more or just talk about all kinds of gear and all that, I saw someone talking about sampling into wavetables or something on the Discord, which is probably right up Smiling Air's alley. But head to the Discord. The link is in the description. We'll see you over there. And until then, Curtis, anything you want to add?
No, just everyone have a wonderful week. And be happy.
All right. Well, much love, Lars, for coming on and for your continued support. It means the world. But if you can make it next week, I would love to hear, even on just the chat, I'd love to hear your take on Machine 3 as someone who actually uses Machine, but or just throw it in the Discord.
If I get a chance to use it this weekend, because I did upgrade.
Yes.
I haven't had a chance to use it yet. So
awesome.
I'll let y'all know what I think.
All right, man. Well, if you want to film something showing like anything, let us know. I'd be happy to throw in something in one of the upcoming weeks of like, what is new from someone that actually uses it for stuff that's not just beats.
But I like the beats. I want the
You're welcome to do the beats, but I mean, you do the crazy, weird house music.
Bye.
All right. With that, we'll call it a day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.